It is September 15th and we are almost into fall. I am filming this video because I wanted to share a few of my small business ins and outs for fall. If you are a small business owner or you're just a girly who likes seasonal resets, this video is for you. My friend and I have a blog called Living a Lifestyle. Check it out. We did a seasonal fall ins and outs blog last week and I was like, I'm gonna pair this with the YouTube video because I wanted to share a few of my thoughts on what we're welcoming in this season and what we're letting go of, because we all need some friendly reminders of what we want and what we don't want in life, and sometimes we need to set boundaries and realign with our values. So that's what this week's video is about. Thanks for being here. I'm going to take you along in a few different locations as I break down the ins and outs for fall, and I'd love to hear your opinion down below. What are you bringing in this fall and what are you leaving out of your life? Okay, let's not waste any time and let's dive into the video. So let's start with the ins. My first in for fall is doing daily brain dumps. So this can be for your business, for your personal life, for honestly anything. It's just getting everything in your brain, everything that's on your mind onto a piece of paper. I love making to-do lists. I think as somebody who has a lot going on, if you're somebody who has got a lot to juggle, whether you're a parent, you're in a relationship, you have a full-time job, you have a side hustle, you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, however your life looks, today's society, there's always so much going on. And so I think like doing a brain dump at the beginning or the end of the day or whenever it suits you is getting your thoughts out of your brain and onto paper. I personally like to keep a to-do list in either my Notion template or my notes app, and I just have a running to-do list all the time. Sometimes I just need to get it out of my brain because I get so stressed out about everything I have to do. And it just really helps relieve that stress. And then from there, I schedule everything. And this might not be how you want to live your life. You might not want to schedule everything. I just find when you're able to get things on a piece of paper and then you allocate time for it, it makes a huge difference. So I personally really love to time block. I am going to make a newer version of my time blocking routine in the next couple weeks. But basically what I do is I just take that to-do list and I'll put little slots, whether it's a half an hour slot or a 15-minute slot or a 10-minute slot. Like for example, I had to call my doctor this morning, so that was on my to-do list. I have to finish filming a UGC video for a brand at some point this week. I put that on my to-do list. I have to get this YouTube video up. I put it on my to-do list. And then from there, I schedule increments in my calendar to do those things, because if you don't schedule them, they're a lot less likely to actually get done. So brain dumping and then scheduling everything. So this one's huge as a small business owner. It's about getting enough sleep. I'm sure you've heard this everywhere. Sleep is so important. It was so underrated, so underlooked for so many years. And I don't think it has been until recently that people have really started to realize how important sleep is. It is the time when your body rebuilds itself, your brain heals, your organs heal, everything heals, your skin heals. It is so important to get enough sleep. I think in seasons we ebb and flow of how much sleep we need. I personally feel like this fall I have just been craving so much sleep. And it's kind of annoying because I need to get things done, but yet I keep sleeping a little bit longer than I want to be. But I'm trying to listen to my body and be like, hey, you're tired, and if you don't sleep, you're going to burn out. So obviously it's a balance. You obviously need to get up and do things, but if you do take a little bit of extra sleep, don't see it as a bad thing. I definitely think getting enough sleep is huge in terms of your success as a business. Yes, I know founders don't sleep, and I know people building businesses don't believe they need to sleep, and I see where their reasoning comes from. I totally get that there's only a certain amount of hours in the day, but I think it's possible to find balance. As somebody who has been successfully scaling my brand slowly but surely over the last 4 years, I sleep. I do not sacrifice my sleep. I might sacrifice other things. I might sacrifice time in front of the TV. I might sacrifice time with friends. I might sacrifice time with my partner. I sacrifice things, but I don't sacrifice sleep. I think you can't function properly. Your brain turns to mush if you don't sleep. And I've met plenty of founders who look like they are very ill because they don't sleep. And I just don't think that's nothing is worth risking your health. You know, for many years when I worked in television, I did not sleep very much. I was in my 20s, so it was a bit different, but I wasn't healthy. was always dealing with stress and chronic pain and things that shouldn't have been happening as a 26-year-old. So I think the biggest shift that you can make in your business, and a great way to honestly scale, and one of my biggest ins, is getting enough sleep. And like I said, I don't mean sleeping 12 hours a day, but getting to bed by 9 or 10 and waking up between 5 and 6 or even 7, you know, like you can still get a lot done in those hours. So please, you guys should sleep. So one of my final ins for the season is really aligning with your values. This has been a conversation I've been having with a friend of mine a lot about what are your values in your business? What are your values in your life? How do you want to reflect them in your business? So I personally think it's really important to align with who you are. What do you want out of your life? What values are important to you? And I've heard this from a lot of experts in terms of, you know, a value system. Instead of setting goals, I mean, I always love setting goals, but I have heard the contrary of like, set your values for the year. And then as long as you're living by your values, you are going to live a life that you're proud of and a life that you're happy with. I like to do both. I like to set goals, and I think values are also important. But basically, as a business owner, like, what are your values? Is it that you really care about giving back to your community? Perhaps it's setting boundaries. Maybe it's only working a certain amount every week so you have more time for yourself or your family, or doing things that you love that aren't work. Maybe it's, you know, example, integrity is a value of yours, and you really want to follow through with being an integral part of your community. You want to be you want to have integrity as a business owner. So determine 3 to 4 values for yourself and your business, and follow through with those. Maybe this is like the last stint of the year and you're not 100% aligned with your business or the direction that it's going. Write those values down, do your homework, do a bit of brand research. Who do you want to show up as a brand? And once you've figured out those values, I really think your whole brand and your whole business becomes a lot more clear, and then you're really proud of the business that you're building. And I think just taking time to think about it, I have to do it myself even. It's actually a homework. It's a to-do of mine, is to do a bit of brand value research, and not research, but determination of like who I am as a brand. So I think that's really important, and that's definitely one of my like big ins for the season. So that's my in list. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about that. And now next up, I'm going to talk about my outs for the season, but I'm going to move into my vehicle because I have to get on with my day, and we're going to talk about the outs, and we'll wrap up this video a little bit later on, but I just wanted to get it started this morning and share some of my ins and outs for small business owners. Hello, my pals. I'm continuing this video in my car because I wanted to finish this video today, and I had to go into the office, so I didn't have time obviously to film. So I was like, I'm gonna continue this video, but from the car. So I'm gonna talk to you now about the outs of a small business this season. I don't know what lighting I like better. This one's a little bit less intense. So the outs. We talked about the ins of like what we're welcoming into our life this season. The outs are things that we want to let go of, that we want to improve, that we don't want to think about anymore. And let's dive into those. So the first one that I think is so important, and something I have been trying to teach myself over the years, is saying yes to everything. You don't need to say yes to everything. I know at the beginning it's easy to just take it on it all, and I did that. I still do that at times. You know, you want to gain all the experience, you want to build your resume, you want to make money. I think it's important to say yes to an extent, but there comes a point where I think we need to let go of saying yes to everything and bringing in the things that really matter to us. So for example, for the first couple years as a UGC creator, I was saying yes to every brand. I did gifted campaigns. I said yes to it all, which was so exciting at the time. But as I've grown as a creator, as I've started working with bigger brands and getting paid for my work, I no longer say yes to gifted campaigns unless it's a product I really want or I really could use in my life. But I don't have the time to say yes to everything. I don't have time to do every single video for a brand. And you know, maybe sometimes they only want to pay you $30. You know, that is lovely for some people, but when you get to a certain point in your life, you have to make space for the bigger collaborations or the bigger deals, or also just maybe your mental health doesn't want to say yes to everything. Maybe you don't want to be working 24/7, which leads into my next point. But like saying yes to everything means that you are inevitably giving up something else in your life. So really trying to think about what are you excited about? What do you want to say yes to? And letting go of the rest. My next point is working 24/7. We're not going to do that. And I know this kind of goes down to similar points as to what I was saying before about sleep. And like a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't sleep. They work, they hustle, they grind, which yes, that is going to get you to a certain place in a quick amount of time. But I think it's so important, like I said, to have sleep, but it's also important to not work 24/7. You really need to give your brain a break, because you're going to be more productive when you actually give yourself space to think and get outside and spend time with people you love. So like this weekend, for example, I had scheduled time to work on Saturday and Sunday. I did not. I was like, I can't do this. I need a break. I need to just take a beat. I need to read my book. I need to watch a movie with my boyfriend. I need to go for a run. I'm going to go see a friend that flew in from Toronto. So I was like, I'm obviously going to see her. And I didn't work. And yes, I'm behind now this week. But my psyche appreciates that, and I will find ways to catch it up. So I'm not too worried about it. Sometimes it's good to not work 24/7. Overthinking every decision, which turns into not taking action. So I see this a lot. I don't necessarily have this problem, but I see this a lot in other business owners of like, they overthink everything, or they hum and they haw for a really long time, and then like no action actually happens. Like a month goes by because they've been thinking about something for so long. Yes, of course you want to be careful, thoughtful about every decision in your business, but I think sometimes we just have to plunge. Like every YouTube video I put out isn't my best work ever, but it's about consistency. It's about getting your work out there, and things get better with time. So maybe you launch your Instagram page. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not exactly the way you'd want it to be. But if you think about it for 6 weeks straight, it's never going to get out there, and then you're behind. So I would say stop overthinking and just go for it sometimes. And there is a fine line between obviously being thoughtful in your work and like rushing. But yeah, I would say just like get your work out there. It's better to have things out than to not be producing anything and not showing people what you're all about. And my last point for my business outs of the season are comparing yourself to someone else's journey. This is huge. This doesn't even just mean as a business owner, but like as a person. If you're comparing yourself to everybody else's journey, you are just wasting brain space and hurting yourself. So you know, it's very easy for me to go online and see all of these creators making 6 figures, these YouTubers that scale in 6 months, people that literally started in 2020 and now they're millionaires. That is hard for me to see. Honestly, if I'm being totally vulnerable with you guys, that is hard. Because that has not been my case. But I have to remember that my journey might look different than theirs, and that's okay. I think as long as you're putting in the work to the best of your ability and you're going after the dreams that you want to accomplish, your time will come, and it's not going to look the same for everybody. And even if, like, for personally, if all your friends are getting engaged and you are not yet engaged, that's okay. It's okay to have a moment to be upset and to feel sad and to feel, you know, like, oh, why isn't this happening for me? But I think like just it's a wasted space comparing yourself. And of course, you're going to have those thoughts. We're all human. But I think the moment we can let go and stop comparison, you're just going to feel so much lighter. So those are my tips. That is what I would say are my business outs. I would be very curious to hear what you guys are letting go of this season. I really hope you've enjoyed this week's video. A bit more of a casual, low-key one, but I thought it would be cool to release it as a video form as it goes along with the blog. I really enjoy chatting about this kind of stuff, so I'd love to hear your opinions. And I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week in another vlog. Bye, guys.